Well, what then did Ron offer you in this dialogue?
What Ron told me was, he said if I could get the 3ABN crew, if I could get you to come over, I want you to have the exclusivity on this. He said, I do have a problem in that I need $10,000. He said, I have a machine that detects gold and I need to get a new machine, this equipment, and I can't tell you the name of the equipment, but the equipment that I need is going to cost me $10,000. He said, what I'll do is I'll buy this piece of equipment, I'll bring it over, but since I'm not going back and I'm going to be in Jerusalem, I need $10,000 cash because I'm going on to another find somewhere. And so with 3ABN, there's no way I would take 3ABN money on something, if I could use the term, a gamble like this. And so as he told the story, it was very heartwarming. It sounded absolutely marvelous, sounded wonderful. I had no reason to doubt what this...
He came through very authentically.
Oh, very sure. And I meet lots of people, and if there's one thing you learn over the years, you pretty well get a feel for people as to whether they're telling you the truth or not. You can't always know, of course, but Ron came through very, very believable. Had no reason to doubt him. So our attorney talked to one of my board members and said, would you be willing to donate $10,000? He told him what was happening, the news that would be brought out, how 3ABN would be involved. And the board member said, well, I've lost some money on several occasions with Ron Wyatt that he's promised this or that, but something like this, if there's a chance, it would be worth it, so he did. He also bought us a camera. We'd already talked to him about buying a Betacam camera that would be a state-of-the-art at that time, and so we said, would you be interested in is this a good time to get the camera too? And he said, oh sure, it's not a problem. Let's get the camera, that way even when we get back 3ABN can use it, because we needed a good remote camera. So he purchased us a camera and also donated the $10,000.
So you're talking about a lot of money here.
Yeah, that camera was $40,000. But as I say, he was willing to purchase the camera anyway, but this way we had already talked to him, but now he said, I'll do it now.
You wanted the best to take over.
That's
there.
right, sure.
Yeah,
if we're going to give it to ABC, NBC, and CBS, they'll be wanting
So you would
video.
actually have been the exclusive distributor of these
That's what he promised us. He said, I don't want any pay for this, but if you'll give me $10,000, I do need it in cash, but I'll buy this equipment that I need.
So you'd be the only ones over there
Right.
videoing.
That's right.
Is that the...
Sure, no one else is to know.
Well, it seems fairly obvious, but what were your goals? What did you hope to achieve when you got to Jerusalem?
Well, it's very simple. I expected to go down into a hole. I expected to watch the dig for a day or two. We wanted to have the cameras as we got closer and closer, and when we entered the room with the Ark of the Covenant, we wanted to get all this on video. Then we wanted to bring it out and present this to the world, not only on 3ABN, but we knew that TV stations around the world would want to see this.
Now, I have been shown a photostat of a contract that has your signature on it, dealing with the $10,000, and it specifically states that irrespective of what you found or didn't find, I forget the exact wordings, but something to that extent, he would retain the $10,000. What's your recollection of that?
I've seen that myself. Someone sent me that, a copy of that. It is my signature, or at least it looks like it to me. I haven't had anyone else look at it.
Well, you should know your signature.
I mean, it would have fooled me. If it's not my signature, it would have fooled me. I can tell you for a fact, we didn't have a contract when we went to Israel. We didn't make anything. When we went to Israel, I took Harold Follett, who's our attorney. I can honestly say before God, I don't ever remember signing any such contract. I asked my attorney, is it possible that I signed this contract, or you had an agreement with Ron and I signed this? And the attorney said, absolutely not. I would never have you do that. We didn't do it beforehand. And I said, well, it's fooled me. I mean, here's my signature. And he says, well, there are a number of ways. People do this all the time. They can take signatures and put it on. Yeah. The point I would like to make is this, Dr. Standish, whether I signed that contract or not has no bearing on what I saw once I got there and what was exposed and uncovered before we left.
That's true.
And so I do want to say that in defense. My recollection before God and the people, whoever watches this, I never remember doing it. I couldn't, you know, I couldn't, you know, swear my life on it or anything like this, but all the common sense and the way we operate, the way we function, I don't ever sign contracts without my attorney's advice. My attorney says, absolutely, you did not. I wouldn't have let you sign such a contract.
But you're right, Danny, this is a side issue. It's not the issue of what we're here to.
It's not the issue at all. The $10,000 is forgotten. It's over.
So you never did receive a copy of this except when you got this or you later saw the photostat, or what?
Several months ago, this past year, someone sent me a copy of this, because I have told people in the past, well, Ron Wyatt promised to give, which he did on the phone. He said, and if we do not come up with the Ark of the Covenant, I'll give you your $10,000 back. He did tell us that on the phone. Again, I had no reason to doubt him.
Now, you went with the team to video this.
Yes.
And when you arrived there, were you the exclusive videoing team there that Ron had promised to you?
There were probably at least 4 or 5 other men with cameras, video cameras there.
To video the Ark of the Covenant, or just
No.
videoing other things?
To video, they were, in fact, for 2 or 3 days, when they first started going on to dig, some of the men who were actually in there were taking their they were home cameras and whatever cameras they had, they were taking them down and taking video, but Ron wouldn't let, my brother Ronnie Shelton went with me, and Linda, my wife Linda, and for several days he wouldn't even let us go down into the hole. It's there in the Garden Tomb, right in Jerusalem. It's a place called Garden Tomb.
All right. Now, how many were in your team?
Well, there was Harold Follett.
Yes, that's the lawyer.
Yes.
And he was a board member then, I understand.
Yes, that's right. And we had May Chung, who was a board member of 3ABN. And my brother Ronnie, who was the camera person, my wife Linda, who's vice president of 3ABN, and myself.
And what would it have cost you to go over there, beside the $10,000 for this piece of equipment?
Well, I haven't figured it in a while. I mean, it was several $1,000s if you figure air tickets there and back, and nearly a week being there, so we had quite a few thousands.
So you had hotel expenses and so on.
Sure, eats and
and all the other things that go with
it.
When you arrived in Jerusalem, what kind of cooperation did you receive from Ron?
Cooperation in the fact that he took us over, showed us where the Garden Tomb is, said that he wouldn't be able to, go down with these diggers for a while. He had recently, if I understood it right, I think his wife is named Mary Nell. They had recently married then. They hadn't been married very long. And when we got there, he asked Harold. Harold had the money for the $10,000. Harold gave him the $10,000. And most of the week we were there, the several days of the digging, Ron himself hardly even went into beneath. He and his wife were gone, and I noticed they did. I can't tell you what all they did. I noticed quite a bit of shopping and things like that. So I'm not sure. He did not show an interest in that. For a man who said the Ark of the Covenant is here, we're going to discover it and bring it out to the world. Immediately when we're there, and I saw the other cameras, I saw the other men. And he had told me the secrecy of all of this, and told me the crossholes were there. When I finally did go down after 2 or 3 days, I asked the men coming up, do you see anything that looks like crossholes? And they said, no, we don't. And so I asked Ron, well, where are these crossholes? And he said to me, oh, well, I took people from PTL Club. It used to be Jim and Tammy Baker's show before they went down. He said, I took PTL, I've been on their show before talking about this, and I brought people over here, and I think probably they stole them. And all of a sudden...
Now, wait a minute. Let me get that plain. How do you steal crossholes? You mean that there was wood or metal that was sunk into the ground in maybe a squared or rectangular form, and the crosses were thrown down into that? Or are you talking about the soil itself in which the crosses were?
There was nothing there to see. It's like as if I told you today, you know, these crossholes were here, and how would you know or not know? There was nothing there. They're no more likely to be there than they were. You know, I mean, there was nothing there. When I asked him, but the things that began to all of a sudden add up to me that weren't right is I said, well, wait a minute. You told me not to tell any of my workers, to tell no one. This was the most secretive thing. Now you tell me you've been on PTL and they have thousands and hundreds of thousands of viewers, You've talked about it. You've even had the PTL club over here in this little hole, and now you feel that they stole these crossholes. Now, I have no idea what crossholes were made out of. I doubt they had poured cement like we have today. They, you know, whether it was metal or just holes in the ground. Nothing began to add up, because suddenly I saw it wasn't secret. When the other men were here with cameras, I noticed they had a couple, they call them Aussies, you know, Austria. You know a little bit about that,
I
don't
know
you?
a lot about
a little bit. A couple of gentlemen that he had met on a plane. And these young men used language that was, obviously they were not Christians. They talk about things they did at night, you know, with some Israeli girls and things. When we went down in the hole, they were talking about it. I'm sorry to be, I'm trying not to be that frank, but to paint a picture. And I told my wife Linda, if the Ark of the Covenant is here, we'll never find it, because I think God basically has hid the Ark from people just like this. I have nothing against those gentlemen. Wouldn't know them if I met them today, but the atmosphere was not one of a dig and you're coming into a holy place like this, you know.